What is your advice to a youngster studying MBA? Uh, what is your advice to that person? Because you know that when you do an MBA, like when you are doing, you want to move up the corporate ladder, you want to expand your business, you want to take more responsibility. So, how would you look at this?
So if it is for one advice, Rohanta, again, I'm looking at how things work for me. I mean, we all need to look at we all look at things from our own perspective. So one of the things I strongly believe is do the things right today. So if you're working in some organization, do your job today better than yesterday. So try to add value. So sometimes we miss ourselves and look at what I can get next. Okay, so yes, if you do it your right, you will get that next quite faster. But focus on what you do today and do it right and add value. So that's how you differentiate yourself. So always try to add your perspective into the whether I've been telling whether it's a security guard or any CEO, everyone has a role to play in organization. I can't do the security guard job, but you differentiate yourself by how much of value creation you add into that role. So if you're a young graduate or just starting a job or doing a business, try to do what is right today. Do it to the max you can do. Don't leave anything to for tomorrow to do. Do it today. So then I don't think no one can stop.
Brilliant, guys. Right now in the corporate sector, in terms of um, navigating a country, navigating a business in very difficult times, which is one of the most tough situations. I remember one of my bosses, who was a Brazilian origin, once said that the best surfers in the world emerge during troubled waters, and everybody can surf when the waters are easy. And today we are having a person of that caliber. As you know, that we are in three different platforms. This is only the speakers platform, and the VIPs. The others are in the other two platforms. And we also have not only our students, but we have people from um, around the world, from the diplomatic community, who has been our speakers, as well as some key invites from the Staffordshire University in UK, and AIT, who will be coming and listening to you. If I'm to introduce our speaker, he's currently the Director CEO in CBL Natural Foods Cluster. He's the expert export agricultural. CBL Natural Foods Cluster has operations here in Sri Lanka and overseas, and is responsible for the entire supply chain from farm to customer with our own agricultural network of more than 5,000 plus direct and indirect farmer base. Previously served as CEO, Chemonex PLC in CIC, Managing Director, Lafarge Maldives Private Limited, and General Manager, Geocycles at Holcim Limited, which is the first professional waste initiative in the country to manage hazardous and other industrial water wasters. He has contributed as a resource person to many local and international forums in the field of waste management and circular economy. So you have a person who has worked in the top companies of Sri Lanka, someone who has proved his mettle for the last maybe 20 years, and now he sits on one of the top companies in Sri Lanka, which is Manchi. Graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Sri Pune and with an MBA from the University of Cardiff Metropolitan. Presently reading a DBA in the area of circular economy at the Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand, which is the number one university in our part of the world, and chartered environmentalist from IEPSL. Vice President, US Business Council, Great Mekong Business Council, Treasurer, Institute of Environmental Professionals, Sri Lanka, local member since 2010 and National Council member in the Lanka Responsible Care Council, member in the National Agribusiness Council, committee member in the Export Development Committee in the International Chamber of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, outstanding personality, not only just in the world of practice and operations, but he's also now conceptualizing to see what he can give to the industry with regard to his doctorate studies. So he's a doctoral candidate from AIT. Randeewa Malalasooriya, Director CEO, CBL Natural Foods. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Rohanta. I'll share my presentation. I think I need to get the permission to share the screen.
Kanishka, can we give that option, please?
Yeah, all good now.
Thank you.
It's working. Thanks. Hope it's visible.
Yes, very clear. We can put for.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you see it?
Yes, very clear.
Thank you very much, Rohanta. Thank you very much for inviting me for this session. With your permission, Rohanta, I just want to do a topic little tweak if it is okay to do. So instead of talking about today, because we all know what is happening around today, I'm not going to talk any of these matters because it's very challenging what is happening all of us, and I don't want to be like 7 o'clock news or 6:30 news. I'm not going to talk about that. But instead that, with your permission, I'm going to talk about running a company any day, so including today. So hope you're okay with that, Rohanta. Just want to confirm.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That'll be great.
Yeah. So before I start my quick update about this 10 to 15%, I'll give quickly briefing on what the present company that I'm part of. So as Rohanta said, CBL is known to most of you. So we are into confectionery, any other products. We are almost 50 plus years old company, operated in many perspectives of, we are the one of the biggest food conglomerate in Sri Lanka. So we mainly have 3 clusters operating under CBL. The biggest is the biscuits and chocolates, which you enjoy, our best products, I hope, daily basis. And the second is into soya and nutrition product. Third is where I'm actually operating and directly responsible with. I don't know how much of you know that CBL is into coconut products, fruit products, and spice products. Spice is quite known, little bit known because we launched certain spices locally, but my cluster is 100% into exports perspective. Just to give an overall glimpse on, just to try to justify my presence over here before I'm going to talk about perspectives. So altogether, the cluster is about 50 million. We are a little bit than percent Sri Lankan foreign reserves. So our target is about 75 million. And most importantly, we are predominantly buying from local raw material, which is almost about 95% we are buying from local raw material, which is into coconut or spices or fruits. So other than the packing material, we are very much depending on local supply chain. So we were able to almost pump about 3 to 5 billion into local farmer networks. And same way, coconut is one of our biggest products. So we are kind of like, we are the biggest coconut milk exporter in the country. And same time, we have a sizable, we buy sizable quantity from industrial nuts available for industry. So, and same way, we are into coconut milk, we are into vegan meat, which is quite known to Jack. I don't know, there's a crazy perspective from the world market for Jack and all these products, and fruits and spices. So with that, I will go into my operational discussion on the challenges of running a company any day. So I will actually take that perspective in 3 points of view: so operational point of view, external focus point of view, and lastly, on people point of view. Since Rohanta was asking me to share my personal experience, I thought of like contextualizing certain aspects where at least 4 aspects of operational focuses, as those are worked to me as a person, as well as a company, as a group. So sort of like bringing those perspectives and putting into the table with you all to question or cross-examine. So these perspectives have worked for us individually, for me, as well as a company. It might work for you as well. So first of all, I think how we run a company, or how I would like to run a company, is on truth-driven, data-driven. So when it is truth, when it's data, so you cannot manipulate it afterwards. So in my background, I've been working in different companies, into multinational to local, different sizes. So sometimes in a certain size of the company, we are not very much happy or free to share data with our team. So it has its own process and pluses and minuses. Sometimes you need to have a certain maturity of the organization to share certain data, but with a certain size, it has to be a data driven, because when you drive certain operational matters or individual on data, you can't go wrong, because everything you have a certain perspective, there's a backing behind it. So that's one of the first things I would like to bring into the table that has worked for us. So when we started, or rather, I'm in this role for about last 5 years. So it was a little bit of, I would say, we had some challenges as a cluster. So we were able to take from there to a more positive direction today, just because of we were able to get the right numbers onto the table. And same way, it's truth driven. So you can't just, I mean, today world, you can't hide information. It's not like any other time. I mean, these are not things that we all need to highlight a couple of times. We all aware about it. Whatever we did about 10 years ago cannot be done anymore, because informations are very much available. So it has to be a truth driven. So that's one of my main perspective of operational focus, which has worked for us very well. And same way, as the leaders, as well as the companies, we need to have a present target with future focus. What do I mean by that? So some companies do mistake where you want to have a very stretched target where those are not achievable. We tend to see people lose those targets, and those are not really, cannot be focused or taken to the next level. So instead of that, you need to have a present achievable target, but you need to have a long-term perspective. So example, when I took this responsibility about almost 5 years ago, while we were working on monthly budget, I had at least about last 5 years view. So that's something we did it together as a team, as a board, as a direction. So we know where we're heading towards it. Sometimes when you're driving a company, as I'm always believing, we might go off track here and there, but we need to see where are we heading to the right direction with our overall longer-term perspective. So that's the importance of having a future focus with present KPIs. So you can't just have future focus and future KPIs. You can't run a company like that. So you have to be present focus, present KPIs, which are future focus. I think that's one of the very important thing has worked for us. You always need to have future focus, but you need to have a present KPIs. Thirdly, don't stay with the solution. I mean, these are very, very, very common things, but we tend to forget as leaders, as a functional heads, as a CEOs, as a board of director members, we tend to forget that. So it's all about how you're driving the team and how you're driving the environment. So as a leaders, we should not go and say that this is my solution. What do you think? So then you lost the game, half of it. So no one will start thinking about it. So that was one of my key learning throughout entire my career. So we always need to work with the team. Then you can, I mean, it's amazing that the team will take the perspective to the next level if you really practice this by heart. So one of the very important perspective when you on operational matters, because these days it's very challenging. I mean, that's why I said I'm not going to talk about operational challenges, supply chain challenges, but we all need to find solutions. So, and when you find a solution, it's always important to go with collective mindset. Having said that, sometimes as a leader, you always need to drive things because of urgency, but that should not be our normal way of running companies. So this is one of the things actually work for us in the longer run to come over here. And lastly, on operational point of view, I will want to touch on the learning part. So as a companies, we need to learn. As a processors, we need to learn. And as individuals, we need to learn. It's always important because we need to challenge our status quo. So learning is the only way. I mean, sometimes I see organization, or rather, we tend to take on our own also. This is how we have been doing last 5 years. Okay, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. The environment has changed, objectives have changed, perspectives have changed. So we have to continuously challenge the status quo. It's very important factor for operational improvement. So that's why I actually wanted to bring that as one of the other important factor of operational focus. So with that, I will move into external focuses. So again, the topic that I want to talk about is run a company on today. So when I say external, that is including our customers, anything beyond your boundaries, anything beyond your own employees, these are all external factors. So one of the important factor uh, tend to work for us as a company, as individuals, work the talk. It's very important, especially during crisis. We have seen this very much because, especially in crisis, you can't just develop a trust on employees or customers by only looking at that particular perspective. So this is something you need to develop and bring over the period of time. So you have to walk the talk. So unless otherwise, you can't develop the confidence on that. And one of the best example is when we had many challenges during COVID. All are very tight. Most of our customers are supermarkets, so we need to have the products on time in the shelf. Otherwise, it's very challenging. But since we were able to develop very good confidence with the right product, with the right quality on time, we were able to explain that yes, we have a challenge. We can't run the company or the production the way we want because of COVID or any other issues. So they had that confidence because we have been building that confidence over the period of time. And surprisingly, some of the customers very much understand. I mean, majority of our key customers understood. There are always some people do not really understand those perspectives, but majority of the people understood because we were able to build our walk to the talk perspective. So it's individually also. I mean, whoever who deal with external environment, because at the end of the day, company is nothing. It's about people. So it's about whether it's a sales, whether it's a management, whether it's a external stakeholder management person, it's all people. So you need to see how these people are interacting on the work to talk. Secondly, we have to put ego behind the mission. So I'm not going to talk about any examples, but when it into environment perspective, you get a lot of challenges. So sometimes we tend to lose ourselves in these challenges and we tend to fight for unnecessary things. So that's why it's important as a company, again, as an individual, always put this ego behind against the mission. So that's why as a leader or as a company, we all need to be very clear on what is our mission. So if you're clear with your mission, it's not just only you have to hang on your wall. So then you will not get distracted among external factors and you will not let your ego to be distorted by the environment. So it's very important to have your mission and stick to it. I mean, one of the best examples come to my mind is South African leader, who was put into the jail for about 45 or rather 20 odd years. But after he became a president, one of the speeches he did that, I mean, he also can do a lot of things back to white community, but his mission was to change the country. So if you try to do the other things, he will lose the time. So you only have a limited time. So his mission is important than the ego. I think that's the same thing from all of us. We can have many examples. You always need to put companies or individually to put the mission in front of the ego. Thirdly, about agility, it's very important because environment is changing. We are able to change ourselves. I mean, one of the best example is while we are doing a very key project of implementing, we were not able to bring some of the foreign commissioning engineers down, but our people were able to go to the job, learn it, and did it on their own, which was not an experience for us earlier. We will always be depending on those commissioning engineers to come. But we knew that it has its own risk, but we were ready to take that challenge. So we were able to finish the project. Yes, there were some delays, but if we waited till foreign engineers to come, probably would have waited so long. But agility is important. So you need to have that agility as a company in driving a focus environment. Lastly, I would like to touch upon on people because that's one of my favorite area. I'm a strong believer of having a right team in the right blend and right environment. So one of the main thing has worked for me as individual as well as a company. Again, upgrade your team, then they will upgrade the businesses. Sometimes we miss these things. We try to upgrade these businesses, but we will not put the right effort to upgrading the team. So first thing is you need to get your right team in place and put effort on the building the right team. A personal experience in all my previous companies also, it has worked for me all the time. So we need to put real effort of getting the people to the next level. Then that people will take the entire business to complete another level, which none of us can even imagine of. So it's important you need to spend some time of developing, get the right people and spending time on upgrading them, not the business. So while we have a vision to the business, we need to upgrade, work on them to upgrade them to the next level. And then they will upgrade the business to completely different level where none of us can ever think of. Secondly, care about people. I mean, CBL caring is one of our very core value. So we need to genuinely care about people. So caring is very important, because if you don't care, I mean, caring is very simple, because we all, my yardstick of caring is, I would like to treat someone else the way that I would like to be treated. So it's very simple. You can't miss with caring. If you wanted to get someone to be treated in a certain way, you need to treat the same way to the other person. So that's the caring definition for me. And as a company, we are very much practicing it. So we always believe that out of 4 values that CBL is driving is caring. It's not about just caring. It's about bringing our, including our own people, the customers, to everyone. Yeah. So it's very important to have that perspective, because you have to do genuinely. As a company also, you need to do genuinely. That's what I said at the very beginning also. So if you improve or have the certain perspective from the very beginning, then you're very easy to manage in a difficult environment, whether it's a crisis or anything. So you can't just care or build a caring environment in a crisis time. So we always use that caring, that bonding in a crisis situation. And this example is, during our first couple of months or couple of weeks of COVID, no one knew what to do, but we were working. I mean, we never wanted to force our employees to come. They knew that it's our responsibility, but we all drive. I mean, as a leaders, as a functional heads, as a board, we were all at the front. We were not at the back. So equally, because we all knew what is the importance of our role. So it has worked for us. I mean, the caring is one of very fabulous tool or fabulous attributes to have it. So personally also, I'm very much fond of it. So we have to have that perspective. Lastly, I would say praise in public. So that's how you develop your team. So we sometimes tend to miss these things. Praise in public, praise in public, criticizing personally. Sorry about that mistake. You have to criticize, or if you have some errors to do, it has to be discussed on personally, not on public. Sorry about that mistake in word there. But praising, we all like to be appreciated in publicly. The public, you always need to appreciate. But any errors or any negative dialogues to have, that has to be one-to-one, because no point of hearing that one by someone else's, because they can't learn from someone else's mistake. It has to be one-on-one. I think these are very important. The focuses had worked for me personally. Again, I'm repeating myself, as a company. So that's why we were able to bring up to this level. So all in all, I was more talking about 10 practices, whom I'm actually personally believing it's working. It has worked for me. And then it has put into 3 perspectives. So finally, we all do for one thing. So happiness, because you all need to be happy and let the other person to be happy. So if you don't do your work, if you can't feel happy in your work, I mean, this is not a good time to change your job. So try to find your own happiness, or work on your own mind and make that environment happy. I mean, since married people know very much, even though we don't like it, we try to keep that environment happy, because you can't change it. So if you know that you can't change it, why don't you be happy? And then if you're a happy leader or happy, as a person, you can make the environment happy. So I would stop from there. And I'm very happy to take any questions or any clarifications or any disagreements for those points.
Thank you very much, Randeewa. I mean, spot on, 6:57. Leave the talk exactly on time. Excellent. See, there are millions of questions coming on the thing. I'm going to just ask a few of them, if it's okay with you. The first question they're asking you is, how do you look at strategic planning when every day the environment is changing? And how do you look at having plans for 3-5 years when we don't know what happens tomorrow? What do you think, Randeewa?
Rehan, the present situation is extremely different compared to our normal situation. Sorry about that, I'm middle of the power cut, but I will have the connection. Okay, I got the power back. It's a completely different, but one of the things we've been doing as a company as well as a group, so we always think, okay, no point of get distorted among the environment, we always think things should be better. But while we're having a longer term plan on 1 year, but now we do have a daily plan, I would say weekly plan. We discuss things on monthly basis. Earlier, we used to discuss on monthly. Now we discuss even at a board level on daily basis, because we have that kind of environment. So that's what we have adopted, because whatever we planned yesterday is not applicable for today. So, I mean, as well as that's I use the word agility. Even I'm a CEO of the company. Probably, I mean, not probably. Today, my role, maybe half of the time, I'm actually trying to get fuel. So we all need to roll up our sleeves and to do certain things. If you don't do it, I mean, I'm a strong believer, Rahanta, any role is mix of many things. Strategic, as well as operational. So it's a situational. So if in a crisis situation, probably you need to play that role of strategy and operational. So today our roles are like that. So there's no easy answer, but we all need to operate it. So knowing that what will happen tomorrow, we all need to change our strategies and go forward for it. And we have, I mean, personally as a company, we have not stopped any of our perspectives. Of course, we are facing those challenges. Knowing that things could improve, it can't go like this. So we always plan accordingly.
Lovely. There's an interesting question coming up. Once you got your degree from university, from Sri Lanka, what made you get into this industry?
So if it is referring to the industry of food, I mean, I used to say only food I knew was the food I was eating through morning to lunch to dinner. But it's not about industry sometimes. It's about how you manage organization and how you trust yourself. So, but when you really get into the new industry, you need to know the nitty-gritties. You have to have the learning agility. So, I mean, when I took my first role, even as general manager Rohanta in waste management in Holcim, so I was more into the sales. I mean, I took general manager. I think half of my first year I spent at the factories to understand what is happening. Today, that's important for me to go and sit in a boardroom. I need to know what is happening there. So you need to have that thing. So same thing I would say, you need to know, you have to have that ability to learn. You need to have the eager to learn. And then from there, you need to maneuver yourself into right practices. So I would say that has worked for me. To that question from you coming out of university.
There's a question coming from the undergrad. She's saying a lot of people say don't go to university to study because it's a waste of time, but do professional qualifications and quickly get into working. What is your thought, because you are a university internal graduate?
How I see this, whether it's a university education or a professional qualification, these are kind of like how I see this. If the life is a river, big river, any qualification is kind of a boat. So people go through this river from one side to other side without the boat. Some can swim with a lot of energy. If you have it, certain people can swim. But if you have any qualification, whether it's a university qualification or professional qualification, it's a boat, it's a tool. And then it's all about, it's in your hand, how you use that tool effectively. Some with the tool just hang on the boat without really trying to maneuver it to go to the other direction. Someone use that tool and try to go like a speedboat. So it's all about, it's in your hand. I don't think there's anything wrong in any qualification. It's all about how you use it. So to get your direction.
How do you work in an environment where your interest rates are crossed 23%? And are you going to make your net profits to be above 23% if you are to cover your cost?
It's actually very it's different. If you're into export market, if you're into local market, you have no other choice of passing the certain cost back to the consumer, because everyone knows that cost is increasing. When you come to export market, just like us, we have a dollar realization advantage. Also, it's actually depending on the environment you operate, and again, you're gearing, whether you are on equity or whether you are on financing. So it's not only about interest rate. So of course, businesses with high borrowing, it's very challenging. That is a factor very much. But if you maintain certain blend, that's always a possibility. But especially with small businesses, small to medium term in this environment is very challenging. So it's a fact.
There's a question coming from Hansani, who is an MBA graduate. She's asking, what are the key issues you are faced with tomorrow morning when you go to work?
That's something I want to avoid of not talking. The biggest challenge is, okay, do we have the right resources to operate? So, I mean, first of all, can I go to work? Do I have fuel to go? So those are the biggest, some of the basics are missing. But same time, as an export company, we have been little challenged by what is happening around the world, in Europe, and what is the recession they're going through, the economic practices. So, I mean, just like us, or rather, not just like us, we are in a completely hyper inflation situation, but Europe is also going through a sizable inflation. So our customers are being impacted. Those are day-to-day challenges we are facing it. But one of the things so far worked for us, we always have 1, 2, 3 plans all the time. So we always try to work not only one plan, second plan, third plan. I mean, that's part of our vocabulary always. So that's, I think, one of the things we all need to do in one personal life. So we can't stick to one plan. So we always need to look at what is the extreme, what is the best case scenario, and then we need to go moderate. So
yes,
those are kind of challenges.
There's a question coming from Gayan, who works at Brandix, and is asking, are you all looking at setting up operations overseas? Because in the companies I work for, that's a huge strength that we have alternate supply chains.
Yeah, so I mean, as a company, we also have operation in few countries into Africa and Bangladesh, and so Myanmar, we had to shut it down because of country situation. Yes, we are very much looking at opening a few other countries as well. So we all have that. We have to operate like that. Otherwise, you can't relying on one country, one origin. So this is one of the environment which is very much justified to do so. Yeah, very much into it.
Interesting question is coming from a lady who is into CSR, and she's saying, since you have handled the geocycle of Holcim, are you all into carbon trading? Was there carbon trading as a philosophy practice in Sri Lanka? She's actually based in Seychelles.
The carbon trading is more or less like a little bit of layback as world now, since I think a couple of years, because the carbon trading was mostly used for bridging financing. If some of the projects cannot be done, they use the carbon credits to bridge that. So because of the carbon values came down, it's not very much happening. I mean, Sri Lanka also have the same challenge. I mean, not only Sri Lanka, the globally also that challenge is there. So yes, it's a good tool, but I think we are not, as a globe, also not using very much effectively, because one of the main challenge carbon trading had was the process was very cumbersome. It's very difficult to get it justified. So I think global level, the people are looking at how to simplify and justify that. I think it's a fabulous thing. I mean, as a globe, not only as Sri Lanka, we are not really using it effectively, I would say.
Good question coming from Binuri. She's on the MBA program, and she's saying, what's the question? Since you're in the export agriculture sector, were you impacted because of the decision for organic fertilizer?
Yeah, very much. And predominantly we are into organic products. So still, this was very much impacted. I think countries like us, with little bit of square kilometers, our focus should be optimized in the crop, not to be narrow. I mean, one of the example that was took wrongly was Bhutan. But Bhutan, if you look at the forest cover, is about 80% by constitution being protected. So you have enough material coming to do that. But Sri Lanka is about 18%. We are very much impacted. I think we are still facing the challenge, because especially on export sector, you have to compete with many other countries. It's not about Sri Lanka, what we do. So we have to compete with many other countries. They have a huge plantation base. I mean, whether it's Thailand or Indonesia or Cambodia or any other country. So we are very much impacted on that. hopefully, I think we'll settle ourselves a little bit more. But yeah, but it was very much impacted.
Interesting question coming out. Since you are a person who has diverse experience and in each company that you have worked, you have made an impact. If you were to advise the new Prime Minister, what advice would you give him?
That's a difficult question.
From Chandima, who runs an apparel company, it's a family company, he's asking.
I think, I always strongly believe that need to look at present. So sometimes we stuck ourselves with the past, what the person have done. So we need to be optimistic and look into things. And so you need to walk the talk and tell the truth. I think I'm not going to say that whether it has happened or not. This is how I would like to be treated as a citizen. So I would like to know the truth, and I would like to know what are the plans and the commitment of everybody. So this is what we have been saying our own employees, Rohantha. So since we are into export company, we've been saying if you want to help this country, let's work at least 1 hour more, try to get $1 more. So if we all need to get out of this mess, we all need to work twice, as individually, as a companies, as a country. So maybe let's all this system change and everything. This is our motto for internally also. We all need to work. Then we can help the country when it can help individually. So I think that has to be the case with everyone, including the Prime Minister. We all need to work and get things right.
That's a very interesting question coming. I'm a 17-year-old. I'm right now got an exception to do the master's program. I run an indigenous business of supplying exotic birds from Brazil to Sri Lanka. I'm in that business because my family is into exports and imports. What is your personal view about Gatha Gogama?
So in your text, you say it's strictly business, no?
I know. But she has said very clearly that it's your own personal view.
I think personally, I think it has worked. We see a lot of changes happen because of that pressure. I personally support that. Maybe not the slogan or anything. I strongly believe in that things has to settle with the constitution. If you all try to go beyond the constitution, we know what has happened to Venezuela. We know what has happened to other countries. So we have those examples. But I see it as a slogan has worked very nicely. So a lot of things we could not achieve was able to achieve or to get it changed. So we all need to be focused now what we need to achieve. I mean, personally, what happened last 1 week was like, I feel like we went 10 years back again, but need to come back again. It was a very nice story. We all really appreciate what was started and what is going on. Yeah, I'm very much positive, and to need to get that changes to the constitution. That's where our future is. And always, we always say that we tend to forget things. We always need to keep remember these things, at least when election comes, to vote to right people. So we tend to forget that. That's my reading for everywhere. I mean, so we have a very short-term memory. We tend to forget things. So we should not forget, at least this time, because we had a golden opportunity a couple of times. I mean, at least a little bit of things we remember. We had a tsunami. I think we felt that that was one of the opportunity we should be able to change the country. Then we stopped the war. That should have been another point that we should have been changed the country. But unfortunately, we lost all this opportunity. This is another opportunity we should not lose. That's how I see this Gatha Gogama.
Randeewa, the question is from me. I mean, you are a person, I mean, one of those very interesting speakers who is not just a speaker, but a person who has really built business, very stable, and you know, even the way you present yourself is like, it's an example to many of us. what is your advice to a youngster studying MBA? What is your advice to that person? Because you know that when you do an MBA, like when you are doing, you want to move up the corporate ladder, you want to expand your business, you want to take more responsibility. So how would you look at this?
So if it is for one advice, Rohanta, again, I'm looking at how things work for me. I mean, we all need to look at, we all look at things from our own perspective. So one of the things I strongly believe is do the things right today. So if you're working in some organization, do your job today better than yesterday. So try to add value. So sometimes we miss ourselves and look at what I can get next. Okay, so yes, if you do it to your right, you will get that next quite faster, but focus on what you do today and do it right and add value. So that's where you differentiate yourself. So always try to add your perspective into the, whether, I mean, I've been telling, whether it's a security guard or any CEO, everyone has a role to play in organization. I can't do the security guard job, but you differentiate yourself by how much of value creation you add into that role. So if you're a young graduate or just starting a job or doing a business, try to do what is right today. Do it to the max you can do. Don't leave anything to for tomorrow to do. Do it today. So then I don't think no one can stop you.
Good question coming out. It's from a guy called Shamira. He's asking, do you believe in Sri Lanka?
Oh my goodness, yes, always, always. So we because I went to school in this country, had the cost of people on this country. So this country has given many things, very much believing in this country. But unfortunately, I think whatever changes we are talking on, it has to happen individually as well. So none of us, or rather by nature, we are trying to look at other person, what the other person is doing to us or to the country. So we all need to start looking at things, our perspective, and try to change things individually. So, but unfortunately, Sri Lanka never got a right leadership where the leader can expedite this process within a couple of years with the right practices. But it's not a stop. So if we try to change as an individual, I mean, if you go to another country, you're always a second citizen. You always, Sri Lanka is the only place that you can feel like home. So always believing in it. And it's doable to change.
Randeewa, a very interesting question. I have not heard of a person who has done a DBA. Could you kindly explain to us what is a DBA and why you want to study for a DBA? It's coming from Ruth, who is also working at Seychelles.
Okay, so what is a DBA? Maybe you can explain way better than me, Rahanta, but I'll try to explain in a little bit of understanding that I have. So, so when I want to do my master, or rather next level of degree, doctorate degree, I have a choice whether to select in PhD or a DBA. So PhD, I feel more academic. If you want to pursue in academic environment, PhD is more suitable. That's why I personally select DBA, because we talked about more application. We talk about we were able to associate with such a people, because it's not about what you do, it's all about with whom you're doing it. So DBA personally has given that right environment to me. I mean, personally, why I want to do DBA is, so if you progress your career or any perspective, so you also need to get certain learning perspective also into it. So that's why I feel like DBA could give me that next level of learning, where you learn something more focusedly and try to be expert of into it. And that's why I personally selected to do DBA.
One last question, Randeewa. The question is, how do you manage your time with reference to doing some sports, keeping yourself fit when so much is happening out there in the environment? What is your view?
So I think our life is like a project. So you need to have each project, whether it's health. I have 2 kids, both are very small, so I need to spend some time with them also. It's a project. So if you manage the project, each project separately, you can find a time. It's all about how, because when things are not working, we simply get distorted and get lost in that environment. But one of the best way to keep focus is to stick to certain, whether it's exercise, whether it's learning. This is the best time to do it, because then you will not have time to get distorted. So that's one of my learning in these days.
Thank you so much, Randeewa. Lovely talking to you and spending time sharing your thoughts. We like to wish you all the very best. And maybe one day, if you can do a live session physically, it would be excellent. And it was lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much, Randeewa. Ladies and gentlemen, top CEO from the private sector, graduate of Sri Lanka, worked in top multinationals, and right now heading one of the blue chip companies into the global market. And the business is much more than our foreign reserves of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, and appreciate.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Ron. Thanks.
Thank you.